Hi, I'm Hannah Price. I work at Fable Pictures and I'm an executive producer on Mr. Loverman. For me, Mr. Loverman is a story about a London family with a secret at its heart. And that secret is that the patriarch Barry is gay. He is in love with his best friend Morris, has been for 60 years, and they've been having this beautiful affair for 60 years. And now is the moment that Barry would like to live his truth and live with Morris, and that means divorcing his wife, and it means possibly imploding his family. So it's really a very funny, moving, poignant story about coming out in later life and about starting over. And within that framework, we then also explore the lives of Barry's lover, his wife, his daughters, his grandson, and each in their own way have a secret, and each in their own way are struggling to be true to themselves, and each of them face the journey of starting over. I first read the book, I think 8 years ago, and loved it straight away. And actually, I worked at a film company, Film 4 at the time, but I just thought it would make amazing television. And that's because it's a universal human story about really common experiences that we all live with: growing old, family, regrets, love, the path not chosen, the path not trodden. And there's something in it for everybody. And it's also a really complex story about this whole family. So to try and kind of put that into a film arc wasn't going to work. So for me, it's a TV show because it kind of gets to the heart of these really universal human experiences. But within that family structure, it also explores prescient themes of immigration, race, sexuality. There's so much there. It's actually such an epic story, but through the prism of this family. So for me, that's perfect television. So I think one of the really beautiful things about this book is that it's totally joyous and life affirming, and it's got a sort of big commercial heart because it's got these universal themes that we all experience. And so we really wanted to bring that to a big audience. I think that people all around the world can identify with this story. I think it's a story that people all around the world can identify with, but at the same time, it's a slice of London life that hasn't been seen on screens before. You know, it's an Antiguan British family. It's the experience of a black gay older man. These are not stories we've seen before. So Bernardine's writing has so much heart and humour. It can bring that story to a big audience. Yeah, I think we did feel it was really important to us that we honoured the source material. You know, those characters that Bernardine has created are so beloved. And while we were as true to the book as we could be, there's always evolutions that happened. So the first evolution is that we wanted to set the contemporary story today in 2024, 2023. You know, the book is set in 2010. So already the character, a 75, 74-year-old today, is 15, 20 years older than the 74-year-old in the story. So there's already a shift there. There's a shift in how a screenwriter brings that story to life, in how the actors embody those characters, how the director directs it. So our responsibility really as the executive producers is to hold on to the essence of these characters, you know, to the essence of the book. I think an additional challenge on this project is that in the book, the story is told to us largely by Barry and a little bit by his wife, Carmel. And Barry is just not a reliable narrator. You know, he is very charming, very effervescent with his language, very, very funny. But actually, that's a defense mechanism. And oftentimes the story is much more serious than Barry would ever let you believe. So, you know, we found in the process of developing the scripts, quite a few moments that on the surface felt like they were funny. But then when we dug under the scene to really understand what was driving the scene, what was making the characters tick in those moments, actually there were much more serious kind of tones at play. So I think that was another real challenge of this, was to sort of keep Barry quiet and to really try and unpick what was really going on in the scenes. So I think there is a seriousness and a weight to the story that will be a little more prominent in the show, while still having and retaining all of the fun and humour that Barry embodies. Yeah, Lennie for me was just the perfect Barrington. He's the actor we really wanted to cast from when we first read the book. I think what it is that Lennie brings is he's just oozes the charisma and magnetism that Barry has. But he is just such a sophisticated actor as well, and so those the more serious sort of tones that I was just talking about, Lennie just can play those. He's an actor who can hold three emotions in one line. He's so clever, and I think with all of that depth that he brings, he's brought a lot of the weight and the importance of the story. We think it is an important story, and he embodies that. But then it's so lovely to see him in this role, because I think he's able to use some of his more humorous and comedy chops that I certainly haven't seen in much of his other work. Yeah, oh, they're all amazing. I mean, I think what's so one of my favourite things about this show, about Mr. Loverman, is that just as you're settled into the narrative, the point of view shifts and you reassess everything that you know. So the first three episodes are largely from Barrington's perspective, and then episode 4, which is from Carmel's perspective, turns everything on your head. And I think all of the actors we've got just are so dedicated to protecting and defending the perspective of their character. So yeah, they've all been really wonderful, bringing that richness to each of the characters, because if it was all told from Barrington's point of view, I think Carmel would be someone who we'd laugh at some of the time. He's not the kindest to her. And he only wants to show the audience a very particular side of her that works for his narrative of wanting to leave the marriage. But of course, there's so much more to Carmel. She's got secrets of her own that we discover in episode 4, and Sharon just brings those to life so beautifully. So the key themes of Mr. Loverman are identity, love, family, being true to yourself. And then within the narrative, we also have themes about Windrush, immigration, racism, sexuality. There's loads of richness there to explore. Well, on a general note, authenticity is so important to Fable. We really pride ourselves on telling stories that have a real emotional truth and involve the community that you're telling that story about. So authenticity in this show was really key to us, and that meant, where possible, hiring Caribbean creatives and heads of departments, Caribbean producer, so that we get it right, essentially. And then, of course, this is a gay love story, and it was really important to us that we got that right. During the development process, Nathaniel, our brilliant writer, and we met quite a lot of older queer gentlemen, especially black gay men who had come out in later life, to ask them about their experiences. And the one thing that they told us they would love to see in this show is black gay love. And so that's been our sort of mantra throughout the filmmaking process. How can we make a show that these men will be really excited to watch? So how we've done that, it's about building your team. You know, we hired Hong, is an amazing director that everybody should work with. He's not Caribbean, but he is a gay man, and he also serves as an executive producer on the show, and he just brings a whole other layer to this piece. You know, he's really helped us get the love story right, and again, working with Robbie, our intimacy coordinator, you know, he's really worked out with Hong the nuances of and the arc of Barry and Morris's on-screen romance. And just where possible, we've hired queer and black heads of departments. You know, Chris Melgram, our amazing production designer, who's just built the most exquisite set. You know, he's comes from a background that we felt would be really appropriate for the show, as well as having an amazing design eye. So it's about the team. So I think Mr. Loverman is such a universal story. You know, it's a story that anybody can relate to if they have a family. It's about growing old. It's about looking back on your life and regrets, the path not taken. And it's about being true to yourself. And I think those experiences can be felt by anyone, anywhere. And it's got this positive, life-affirming message that it's never too late to start over. You know, we watch Barry, who is a man who is very fearful, fearful because of society, where he's grown up, but he has to face those fears and start over, and it's really a show that's celebrating that. I hope that when people watch Mr. Loverman, they come away just packed full of joy, and that they feel that they can have the courage to face their own inner demons, their internal conflicts, their fears, their relationships with their family, and to address those and start over. And we hope that people will leave their sitting room sofas feeling full of joy and excitement about the next steps of life.